This car makes me drive like such an asshat. What's up guys, welcome to another video. I realize I haven't given you guys an update on my BMW E39 540i M Sport ownership in a while, and since I just passed the 6-month mark and 6,500 miles, I figured I'd give you guys a little update. So last time I made a video on this car, that was at the 2-month ownership point, and I brought up a lot of small issues. So a couple of things that I have not addressed yet are the engine fluttering noise that comes from the left side of the steering wheel. I think it's most likely just an exhaust manifold leak, and based on what some of you guys told me, it doesn't really seem to hinder the performance at all, so I'm just going to leave that the way it is. Like I said, when I turn the radio on, I pretty much can't hear that sound anyway. Also, similarly, the creaking noise from the door seals, or I thought it was from the door seals, but it turns out it's from the top of the window glass on both the front passenger and driver sides. When it meets the window seal completely, like all the way up, it does create some friction whenever I go over small bumps. So whenever the chassis flexes, the windows creak. And instead of getting that replaced, what I realized will actually make the sound almost completely go away is if I just do this. So if I literally just hit the down button for like a split second, just to give it a little bit of a gap, the sound almost completely goes away. So cheap fix. I know it's still kind of annoying, but it's better than buying new seals and having to mess with installing that. So in terms of ownership costs, things that I've had to do in the past 4 months are 2 new rear tires, because when I bought the car, it came with the Continental Extreme Contact DWs. And, since it is a manual transmission, rear-wheel drive V8 car, the rears wore out a lot quicker than the fronts, at least in the previous owner's ownership. So I went ahead and replaced those with the Firestone Firehawk Indy 500 tires. OEM size, so 265, 35, 18. And the reason I went with these tires is because outside of the US, they're actually known as the Bridgestone Potenza RE003. They're actually a really highly rated summer tire. They've got a lot of grip, and they're 340 tread wear, so they should last a decent amount of time as well. And right after I swapped these tires out, I realized how much the old tires were holding this car back, because if you recall from my previous video, I complained about the lack of an LSD, because in first and second gear, if I took a corner and just gave it more than 50% throttle, there was just no tire traction. The rear inside tire would just start spinning and it just wouldn't hook up. But ever since I switched to these tires, that's no longer a problem. In first and second gear corners, even if I mash the throttle all the way with the DSC turned off, the tires just hook up, and it's really pretty incredible how big of a difference it makes. Even without an LSD, now I have proper traction even with the V8 torque. These tires are so much better. And the 2 tires only cost me $389 including mounting, and for that price these tires get 2 thumbs up. But it's misleading because they're only marketed as ultra high performance summer tires, but it grips a lot better than my old Extreme Contact DWs, which is a max performance summer tire, which is the next tier up in terms of performance. So the other thing I've done recently is just an oil change. So in 6,500 miles of ownership, I've done 2 oil changes now using Castrol Edge 0W40 full synthetic with MAN filters. And the cost of those 2 oil changes was $122 since I did do it myself. So the one thing that I had to spend money on that was unplanned is actually, so I took my family on a road trip to Yosemite. As we were getting close to the top of the summit, there was a little parking lot, like a scenic little parking lot. The parking spots were at an angle, but the concrete barriers in front of the spot were not at an angle. And I didn't realize that, so I pulled up to the spot, and because it is an M Sport, it's pretty low at the front. The front passenger side fender liner immediately crunched into that concrete. It made the most horrendous sound. The fender liner, the bottom part of it, was just completely crunched in. So I looked online, and lo and behold, the lower fender liner for the M Sport happens to be the same as the M5, which happens to be $250 just for that one piece of plastic. There was no way in hell I was paying that much just for a flimsy piece of plastic. I looked up the OEM part number on eBay, and it turns out someone in Europe actually makes a replica part for the M Sport and M5, and it only cost me $50 shipped. It has yet to arrive, but hopefully it fits, because I'll be pretty happy if it saves me $200 on a piece of plastic. So overall, in 6 months of ownership and 6,500 miles, I've spent $584 on maintenance. The vast majority of that was just tires and oil changes. So I'm really happy with this car so far. It has served me well as a daily driver. The V8 torque, just climbing the mountains of Yosemite, was just a pleasure. I could just keep the car in like a higher gear and lower revs and keep it nice and quiet. I mean, if I was in a Honda, it would be just like redlining at like 8,000 RPMs and still going nowhere. The overall refinement and comfort of the car is really impressive for a 15-year-old car. The thing is just so solid. I mean, it's funny because every time my friends get in this car, they always comment on like, why is this door so damn heavy? But that's like German engineering for you. They did a really good job with it. But one other thing I forgot to mention earlier is that one of the cup holders broke. And I have to say, bar none, this car has the absolute shittiest cup holders I've seen in any car ever. Ever. I mean, I'll show you guys a close-up, but basically, the way it works is the ring of the cup holder halfway through has like a joint. So this part actually can move up and down, which makes it really flimsy. So every time you try to put a drink in it, if you don't use two hands to hold that joint in place, you're putting a lot of stress on it. And one of them just completely snapped off. And I'm pretty sure the one that's still working, if I just used my pinky and lifted it up, it would snap right off too. So I just taped it up. I'm not going to mess with that. I'm going to look into aftermarket cup holder solutions, because this car literally has no cup holders except for these two flimsy pieces of crap. There are, unfortunately, a couple of issues that I still need to get addressed. Remember when I actually did a video on this car after I bought it, I mentioned that the steering feels really sloppy on center. And on top of that, recently in the past month or so, I noticed that even when I'm just trying to go straight, every now and then the steering wheel will actually kind of shudder or vibrate. And I can't like accurately reproduce it based on my inputs. It seems to just happen randomly. So I looked online, and it turns out it's a pretty common issue for cars with over 100,000 miles. So I could either get the steering rack completely replaced, or I can try getting the steering box actually adjusted. It looks like a pretty intensive process according to the DIYs that I looked up. So I might just have a mechanic take care of that for me. No idea how much that's gonna cost. And the other thing is the coolant level sensor. I mentioned this last time too. The sensor does come on every few weeks. So basically, if I top off the coolant just ever so slightly, the light goes away, but then inevitably after a couple weeks it comes back. And it's actually pretty annoying, because every time you turn the car on and off, the thing will actually beep at you. But so far I'm just, topping it off. I'm not really too worried about it. I am trying to channel most of my funds into the S2000 track car, because I am planning to compete in Global Time Attack at Buttonwillow this November. Maybe I'll see some of you guys out there. Trying to keep the cost for the daily driver as low as possible. I know that's hard with a 15-year-old BMW that drinks fuel. Oh, by the way, since I've owned the car, I've averaged 19.9 miles per gallon, which is actually not bad at all, considering most of the time I'm just, in stop-and-go traffic. So that being said, thanks guys again for watching. Stay tuned for more updates on the BMW. If you're not already following me on Instagram, please do so, and I'll see you guys next time.